Hello and welcome to the 10th video in my series on getting started with AutoCAD. My name is Chris, and in this video we're going to talk about taking measurements and adding dimensions. Please note that I'm using AutoCAD 2015. If you're not using it, what you saw on your screen is going to look different than what's on my screen. Let's start here by talking about doing a simple measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple lines here, just really quick. I'll get rid of that one. And let's measure the distance between these 2 points. In order to do this, what we're going to do is type dist, D-I-S-T, on the command line. And press space or enter or right click. Pick your first point, pick your second point, and it will tell you the total x distance traveled, total y distance traveled, and the z distance traveled if you're working on the z-axis as well. What you're really interested in is probably this right here, the distance. And this is the total distance between those 2 points. It's not the total distance on the x-axis or on the y-axis, it's the total distance overall. So again, that's dist. And you can do this for any object. So let's say we've got a spline here, right? Earlier we talked about different kinds of objects, and a spline is one of those objects. If you're wondering what a spline is, look up on Wikipedia. They actually have a great article on how splines work and what they are. But let's say we want to measure between that point here and that point there. Again, we can type dist, and you can click your first point, click your second point, and it will give you the overall distance. So we know that's 14'8". Now this is really great when you are working on a drawing and you don't know the distances, obviously, right? And you don't want to have to drop in a dimension line. But sometimes you want to actually have that dimension in place and be able to see it. So in order to do that, we're going to use the dim linear command. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle here. Here we are. Here's a rectangle. Let's say we want to call out the dimensions on this rectangle. So let's go ahead and you can actually click right here and it will let you do it. Alternatively, you can type dim linear and it will bring up the same dialog. Now this doesn't look like it did anything, but in fact if you zoom in here, you can see we got 119 inches, a little more than 119 and a half. Now again, remember that everything has properties, and just like everything else has properties, dimensions have all sorts of properties. You can adjust tolerances. We're not going to go into tolerances. We're going to talk about a couple really basic things. But when we go back to properties on our dimension, and we scroll down to our text, we can say we can pick how we want the text to be functioning. So for example, we can say this is the annotative style that we had, which is going to be something like that one. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the pick points. Now you'll notice here that there's a gap, and this is by design that there's a gap here. This is your pick point for your dimension. You'll notice when you click on it, you can reassign where it goes. All right, so if you only want half of that distance, you can pick half of it there. The other thing you'll notice is that you can actually click and move your text around. And you can move your text out or whatever you'd like to do. Now there is a little bit of a gap here as well, and these are all functions that you control in the properties of or for now, we're going to control them in the properties of the dimension. I'm going to show you a much better way in the next video on how to do this. That's called dimension styles. So you got permission to get excited in advance about that. So that's linear dimensions in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and move on to what are called angular dimensions. And again, the command for this is dim-ang. If you want to type it in on the keyboard, D-I-M-A-N-G. But let's go ahead and just draw an angle here, and I'll show you here. We can get to it off the ribbon as well. You got aligned dimensions, you got angular dimensions, and this is what we're going to be using. So in this, you pick your first object, your second object, and you pull a dimension out of it. And you can pull it out this way or that way or whichever way you'd like. I'm going to pull it off on the inside here. And I'm going to use a command here to match the properties of this to that. And that's incidentally called match prop. TCHPROP. And you can go ahead and click on your first object and then basically paint whatever you'd like to have the same properties. And you can see we updated the text style on that specifically. So we can see this is a 39-degree angle. And that, in a nutshell, is dimensions. We're going to, again, like I said previously, in my next video, we're going to talk about dimension styles. So how to be able to control our dimensions through different style functions to be able to keep on top of our drawings so they don't get crazy messy, and we can control how things function. That's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. If you thought this video was great, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you found it life-changing, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.